So the really cool thing about what I just described is you can create that yourself. You can say, I want to, you can do your own research and determine what your audience would really enjoy hearing about, what you can propose as a barter, and you can bring that to the place that you want to visit as a barter. Hello, and welcome to the Master the Media podcast. I'm your host, Amy Gorin, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I have something very special that I want to talk with you guys about, and it's a topic that I've been getting a lot of questions about. So today's topic is sponsored travel as a healthcare professional who has influence. And so I just got back last night from a sponsored trip to Slovenia. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but it got me thinking, it would be fun to share ways with you guys how you can also travel for free and sometimes even get compensated for it. So there's three main types of sponsored travel. There's like way too many subtypes for us to cover it all in a podcast episode. But the three most common types of sponsored travel, so free travel or somewhat covered travel as a healthcare professional, are conferences that are kind of, educational, tied with sightseeing. So one of the best ones that I've been on is called Food Fluence, where this is where the top media dietitians in the country are invited to go, usually abroad. It's been domestic a couple of times. It was in Washington, D.C. right after COVID, but I've been to Toronto and Lisbon and Budapest. And so you're going to educational sessions and also doing cultural activities like, some of the activities that I've done when I've been lucky enough to get to attend were activities like a bread making class, wine tasting, ice sculpture in Toronto. That was really cool. So lots of cultural excursions and activities. The second type is educational travel in the sense that it's experiential. So, for instance, you're going to California to see how almonds are grown. And I've literally been on this trip. It was one of my first sponsored trips with California almonds. And so they brought us out to see, almonds growing. We went to the manufacturing facilities to see how the almonds are manufactured. And then we did a lot of culinary activities where we cooked with almonds. We had, menus that were almond focused. And you're in this beautiful place. You're in California. The third type that I'm going to talk about today is the type of travel that I just did, which is where you're creating your own experience. And so it's not a planned trip that you're invited to. Rather, it's kind of like you're making your own trip and pitching it to the organization that you want to sponsor your travel and see if they will bite. So I'm actually going to start there because that's the one I just experienced. So I just went to a region in Slovenia called Rogaška Slatina, and it's a spa region. And the reason that I was drawn to this region is because actually, it's because of this water. Actually, there's another type of water. So this is Donat water. They in Slovenia, they say it's the world's highest magnesium containing water. It has a lot of water. And when you're I actually knew about the region because this goes like way back to another sponsored trip I did where I was introduced to this water sommelier. His name is Martin Rees. And I was on a sponsored trip in California and we did a water tasting that was sponsored by Fiji. And so he paired these, each part of the meal with a specific water. And the kind of like, climax of the event was this water called Roy. It's ROI. And it's like $50 for a bottle this size, and that has like the tiniest bit more magnesium than this water Donat, but it's produced like pretty much in the same region. Anyway, so I kind of went down the rabbit hole of researching Slovenia, and I came upon this incredible medical spa where they give you this water to drink and then you do spa treatments and you get medical tests done. It's called Revita. check out my Instagram. And if you're not subscribed to my email list, subscribe because I'll be be sharing on social media at Master the Media on Instagram. And I'll be sending out some newsletters about my experience on this trip. So if you're not subscribed to that, go to masterthemedia.co, go to the bottom footer and just put in your name and email and you'll be subscribed. I'll put that into the show notes as well. But basically, I was like so intrigued by this. I'm really into water myself, and every time I travel, I like to go to water springs when possible and actually get the water from the source. And you can do this in places like Slovenia, places like Budapest and Hungary. Anyway, so I approached Urvita and asked, what what can I would like to come to your spa and hotel, and I actually proposed to them a very interesting partnership that's not the traditional influencer partnership, because they're this really incredible place where you can relax and do spa treatments. Honestly, I got one of the best massages of my life. And you can also do medical tests and I got really comprehensive blood work done that I can take back to my doctors at home. And then you do this water regimen where you actually go drink the water from the source, from the spring. It's called a drinking hall. And they give you the water in your hotel room. And so it's this wellness experience, and they give you special food based off of what you're trying to achieve. So it's like incredibly delicious and healthy food. Anyway, so I was like, you guys are kind of like this hidden place that's really incredible that people should, especially healthcare professionals, should know more about. And so, because I have a healthcare professional list of over 18,000 people, that's what I proposed to them was, hey, I can share through my newsletter list about you guys and also share on Instagram. And I also gave them a testimonial. And in exchange, I got a 100% comped trip. So I got to stay at their hotel for 5 nights. It's a 5-star hotel, incredible service. 3 meals a day and 2 snacks a day. Actually, I asked if I could have snacks because I was like, hey, I eat snacks at home. And so I actually met with their medical team and came up with the food kind of collaboration plan that I wanted to eat. And then all of the spa treatments and medical tests, like I got an EKG, I got my urine and a fecal sample tested, and then blood work and a whole bunch of other things. Just stay tuned to my Instagram and newsletter list to hear more about that experience. But so that's one way where you can do sponsored travel. Usually you're bartering. So you're trading some services that you can provide that are unique to you and your audience, and you're getting services in exchange. In this instance, you're usually responsible for your own travel to the place. So like I was responsible for my own plane ticket. I used my credit card points. I flew into Croatia to Zagreb, which is about less than an hour and a half from Revita, and they actually picked me up in a luxury car service. So like they covered everything except for my actual plane ticket. So that's, you know, a really cool thing where you get to curate your own experience. I've done this where this trip I wanted to travel alone. I just wanted to get some alone time, some me time. But I've done this type of experience in the past. Like I've gone to Club Med where I asked, can I bring a friend? And I was able to bring a friend. This is like way before I met my husband. I would have brought him if it was him. But their trip was completely covered. My airfare was covered. The only thing that was not covered was my friend's airfare. So with the other types of travel, usually those you need to be invited to. So the really cool thing about what I just described is you can create that yourself. You can say, I want to, you can do your own research and determine what your audience would really enjoy hearing about, what you can propose as a barter, and you can bring that to the place that you want to visit as a barter. If you're a writer who writes for editorial outlets and you're able to write about the trip, that's another way that sometimes the bartering can work. Is if you say, hey, I got approval from my editor at X outlet to cover my experience at your travel place, and that could work as a barter. One of the other more common ways is if you have a bigger social media following and you can kind of exchange, Instagram posts, Instagram stories, TikTok, etc. So for the other ways, you can't really pitch yourself for those, but the more that you let's talk about like the trips that are planned already. So like you're going out to see how wild blueberries are grown. You're going to see I've been to like so many of these and they're honestly like some of the coolest experiences ever because I'm just this is the type of thing I would do on my own like if I wasn't getting these trips like I would travel to a place and want to go and see how food is manufactured or supplements are manufactured. So I've seen how Now Foods manufactures their supplements. I've been to, and that was the Chicago area. I've been to France to see Boran's facility. That was one of the coolest trips. Like we stayed in this really cool kind of like castle slash cave like hotel where we went to see Boran's facilities and then had basically like a trip through Lyon in France, which is like the culinary capital of France. It was truly incredible. But so basically, you get to see how either food is manufactured or you get to see how food is grown. So I've been to Sunsweet's facilities. I've been to California to see California almonds, grown and manufactured. I've been to Florida to see citrus growing. I've been to the West Coast to see different kinds of berries grow. Like, it's just truly incredible. Like, if I were to list all of the places, that could be a whole podcast episode. But the way that you get on the brand's radar to be invited to these kinds of things is usually contributing to media. So if you are seen as an authority in the wellness space, so it could be nutrition, it could be medicine, and you're seen quoted in major outlets, so like US News, HuffPost, Women's Health, Men's Health, just those big outlets. What happens is it's usually a PR agency that works on behalf of the brand or the commodity. So like California almonds is a commodity, and they're doing research on who are the top quoted experts in a particular space. And so then they reach out and say, hey, we're doing this trip, X dates, can you come? And then they usually just cover all of your travel. I actually just remembered this is crazy, and I didn't actually get to go because so in 2018, I had surgery on my leg. It was a pretty major surgery. And like, I wasn't allowed to fly for quite a while because of the risk of blood clots after, a 6-hour surgery. And I was invited to Japan on behalf of Ajinomoto, which is manufactures MSG. And it would have been like a first class flight, a totally first class experience through Japan. And I'm still kind of like bummed that I missed that, but you can't go on everything. I wasn't, I wasn't allowed to fly, so I couldn't go. But yeah, so that's really the best thing that you can do to get on brands' radars is to get featured in the media. Social media goes hand in hand in the sense that I would say honestly, like if you're looking at someone with like 50,000 Instagram followers, say they're a dietitian and they're not ever featured in the media, and you have someone who has 2,000 Instagram followers who's featured in the media all the time, the brand would probably invite the second person over the first person. However, you could also probably get invited pretty easily in the first scenario, but it's, you know, contributing to the media is something that's actually, I don't want to say it's easy, but like once you know how to get access to these articles to be quoted in, and honestly, the easiest way to get access to these is to join Master the Media's free Facebook group. I'll put that into the show notes, but it's Master the Media for dietitians, physicians, and health professionals. Find it on Facebook, and we post free opportunities to get featured in media outlets, and they're like every day, literally. Then the other sponsored travel that that I mentioned, where it's the educational conference type, that's kind of similar to what we just talked about. Like this and then this scenario, like your pretty much your main path in is to be featured in the media. And that can be either be through being quoted in articles or through writing articles, so being a freelance writer. That in this scenario is going to have a lot more weight than having social media followers. It's just a fact. And so this is also invitation only, But for food fluence, for instance, like literally the times I went, like we had a presentation on how they go through to figure out who the top contributing media dietitians are in the country. And like they invite like 30 or so of them. So it's really an honor to be invited. Back a little bit ways in the day, there was a similar conference called Food 3000. I was lucky enough to get to go to that. I went to Copenhagen. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was the same thing where the people who were in charge of invitations kind of vetted, who are the top contributing dietitians in the country to media. But there's other similar experiences. I've been invited to, for instance, there's a peanut conference happening on the West Coast. And I've been invited to that. I didn't actually go. I had a conflict, but like that was another scenario where I was invited because I was I'm one of the most quoted media dietitians in the country. You don't have to be one of the most quoted media dietitians in the country to be invited to these things. You just have to contribute to the media significantly. And so the best way, like I said, is to join our free Facebook group to be able to do that. So I'm going to stop there. That's a lot of information. Hopefully that gets your wheels turning about, how you can get invited to go on sponsored travel, how you can create your own sponsored travel experiences. Oh, there is one more thing I want to mention before we hop off, and that is compensation. So usually you're not compensated for these trips. Like your compensation is a barter, a trade. You still use the hashtags like hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored on social media because you are getting compensated. But I have been on trips where I got paid. Usually it's a nominal fee, like $1,000. Like, here's a stipend. We're going to pay you $1,000, and that can go toward you covering your experience on social media or in a blog post, or maybe both. But that's usually, I can't say I've ever been paid more than that. So it's usually just about the experience of the free trip. And sometimes these experiences can be like $5,000 to $10,000 trips, even more if you bring a guest with you. So it's a really good deal. So anyway, I'm gonna stop there. Like I said, if you guys want to learn more about contributing to the media so that you can be on the brand's list, on the PR agency's list to be invited on these trips, go just search for the Master of the Media Facebook group for dietitians, physicians, and health professionals on Facebook, and I will drop that link into the show notes.